This podcast is part of the Startcast Network, bringing you Europe's most promising startups. For more information, go to startcast.eu.
Welcome to Startcast. Today I'll be interviewing the co-founder of Pogoapp, which is a platform as a service. Pogoapp promises one-click blog hosting. So here's my interview with Lisa from Pogoapp. Alright, I'm speaking to Lisa. She's the co-founder of Pogoapp, which is a cloud application platform. Do you mind telling us what that actually means?
So basically, Pogoapp is a platform as a service. So we help you to manage and deploy your web applications, essentially.
Okay, so we're talking about, do you have a couple of examples, for instance, what you have hosted on your service?
Yeah, at the moment we're hosting a lot of Ghost blogs. So if you've heard of Ghost, they just recently came out. They're a new blogging platform. It's a Node.js application, and so we're hosting a bunch of them at the moment, and they're pretty great, really. We also have there's a good company that company that is hosted on Pogoapp called Gambit. They're actually a Bitcoin-based gaming site, so you play games, earn Bitcoins, which is
That's very suiting.
Yeah, it's very suitable for what's happening at the moment.
I would say most Bitcoin's transactions are like playing games at this day.
I guess at the moment it is just a big. Well, to say it's a game, I don't know. It's definitely a gamble.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about when you founded the startup and how did you get to a point where you wanted to found a startup?
So we originally founded the company in 2008, and it was a web development company. So we weren't actually a startup then.
And who's we?
Sorry, we is me and my co-founder, Paul Meserve.
Mm-hmm.
So we started a web development company looking after sites for small to medium-sized companies that just wanted really to get their systems online, and deploying apps for customers that aren't particularly tech savvy but do need technical help, essentially. And in doing this, we were deploying a lot of similar apps, like a lot of content management systems, wikis, things like that. And so in order to help ourselves do that, we built a platform so that what we really wanted to do is just to be able to log into our own platform, click a button, and get a copy of a content management system or a wiki or whatever it is that the customer happened to want, and just give it to them.
So it's just automation, as much automation as possible.
Yeah, basically, we were doing a lot of the same thing over and over again, and we just wanted to automate it ourselves.
Oh, that's classic developer.
Yeah, exactly. So we started to do that, and as we were doing that, we realized that there was a lot of open source code out there that was going to help us to do that. And ultimately, we realized that we were building a platform that would be useful for other people. And so that's when we founded the startup Pogoapp, which was in 2010.
Okay. And would you say, so you have two people in the company, right?
There are two of us. Yeah, that's correct. Well, actually, sorry, technically there's three of us.
Okay, so how would you divide the team, as in like who's doing what? If you could talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so Paul is our lead developer. It's really the whole platform sort of his brainchild. He does all the development. I do a lot less development than he does. I mainly handle the web design and the management of the accounts, the actual running of the business, marketing, and everything else really that's involved. We have a third person. His name is Kyle. He lives in the US, and he's currently managing our servers.
Okay, and he's employed, or is he part of the company?
He's a partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that you're using your own servers. Most startups that I know use Amazon Web Services, sometimes Heroku, sometimes even Google App Engine. Could you talk a little bit about why you chose to use your own servers?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that is it's one of the interesting things about platforms as a service at the moment is that the majority of them out there are hosted on top of what we call infrastructure as a
Hmm.
service, like Amazon. So they're actually a layer on top, they're a cloud layer on top of a cloud layer, so to speak. And then when you put your software as a service on top of that, you're a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer. Um, which is certainly it's there's a train of thought that says that's the way to go, but
It's very good for cakes.
it's very good for cakes. But the way that we see it is that um, it's ultimately in our favor to run our own hardware. So we have our own servers, and we control the full stack of web application deployment on Pogoapp. Pogoapp itself is self-hosted, so Pogoapp deploys Pogoapp all on the servers that we control. So we're in control of everything. We don't have to go through a third party to access our servers, essentially.
Okay. And did you see this solution as more financially viable as well?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of upfront cost in purchasing the servers, and we have to, we've got to get them in a data center. So that's an upfront cost. But ultimately, we think it's going to work out cheaper for us and for our customers.
Hmm. And did you, by the way, mention that Pogo app is deploying Pogo app? That's so meta.
I
Um,
know, right?
okay, so we talked a little bit about the difference. For instance, Heroku is another service that gives you platform as a service, and they're also hosted under Amazon Web Services, at least from what I know. And I was wondering, there are a couple of other services. To name a few, that would be Heroku, Amazon Web Services, of course, and Google App Engine. How do you stand out when such big companies are in the market?
Well, the one main differentiating factor we have is that we run on our own servers. So we have that. We also run on solid state drives on our own servers, so it's super fast performance because we can do that because we have our own servers. So we use solid state drives. It means that everything is really, really fast for our customers. So we have that, and we also offer a level of service, actual support service that currently isn't offered with, or it's harder to offer when you're such a big company, I guess.
So you go, just like many small companies, you have the more personal service, I suppose.
Exactly.
I was wondering because when looking at your website, I noticed that you're supporting basically any language that I've heard of. And
Yes.
considering that, for a good example would be Google App Engine that supports Python, Java, and recently they added PHP. How did you manage to support so many languages, and why do you think it takes so long for others to do the same?
Well, essentially, we use Heroku's open source build packs. Um, so it's basically build packs are a way for the server for our entire platform to take your code, read it, work out how to deploy it, and then deploy it. And this is something that Heroku has built, and they've open sourced, and they want it to be a standard across all the platform as a service companies. And so, which is why they've released it as open source software. They've released a lot of little pieces of their platform, like build packs, essentially because they're aware of the problem that when you have a lot of different platforms with multiple different ways to deploy, it can become a nightmare to take it from one platform to another. So if you decide you don't want to be with Heroku anymore, you want to move to Cloud Foundry or Pogoapp or wherever it is, if you have a lot of different ways of doing that, it can be a nightmare to
No, definitely that's a day-to-day thing for some.
yeah, exactly. So with build packs, it's a standardized way that you can move your web application on Pogoapp to any other platform that supports build packs.
Hmm. Actually sounds very, very similar to ORM. So in many platforms, such as Ruby on Rails and Django, you have another layer to separate you from the database. So changing from MySQL to Postgre or MongoDB. It's just a matter of writing one line of configuration, and that's about it.
Right. Essentially, yeah. It's like you define what build pack you want to use, and then you're good to go.
Could you tell us about some apps that you've already deployed in Pogoapp?
Some maps that we've deployed. Yeah, certainly. I mean, as I said before, we've got the Ghost blogs. We have the Gambit, which is the Bitcoin gaming site. We have a lot of client applications that are running, so a lot of CMS services, wikis. We're running Etherpad, which has become a really useful tool for me personally because you can just fire up a pad, send it to. Are you familiar with Etherpad?
Definitely. For those who are not familiar, it's very similar to what Google Docs is, only you don't have to get a Google user. You can just collaboratively edit documents and sometimes other formats as well, if I recall.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
If I recall correctly, they recently switched to Node.js and made the entire thing a lot lighter than it used to be.
Yeah, so we use I think it's Etherpad Lite that we've been using, but yeah, essentially that's what it. There's a couple of versions of Etherpad out there, but this is it's basically online editing using WebSockets, so it's real time. You can share it with different people. You can all edit it at the same time.
It's very much the spirit of the times where you just go inside some website, doesn't matter where, you create something completely new and you can share it with people you know, but it really doesn't matter where you are or what terminal you are on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so we use that a lot. And we also have basically whenever we see an interesting open source project that's when we come across one, we like to try and get it running on Pogoapp. So we've put a few up recently. We actually wrote one ourselves to convert YouTube videos to an MP3 file, just to show how easy that is to do on the platform. We've got Balloons running on there, which is it's a multi-room chat client.
Okay, wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, so basically whenever we see anything that looks interesting, we try and get it running pretty quickly and get it up there so that people can give it a go, try it out.
So I'm just wondering, do you have your own open source projects? Do you have your own open source repositories?
We have certain open source things that we've written for Pogoapp that we've open sourced. Obviously, not the entire platform is open source, but a lot of the platform itself is built on open source software. We really think that open source software is the it's the way to move forward. It's better to use open source software where possible because that means that anyone can just collaboratively edit and make it better. So when we can, we open source what we can. So we do have some, but nothing really that I could name off the top of my head.
All right. And I was wondering, since starting Pogoapp, what would you say would be the most difficult thing you've ever had to overcome?
The most difficult thing, I think really the most difficult thing is realizing that everything takes longer than you think it will. So, it doesn't matter what deadline you come up with, it's always going to take longer than you imagine, even when you build in extra time. I think that's essentially the hardest thing to overcome is knowing that it takes longer.
I once heard someone says, if you wait to the last minute, it will only take 1 minute.
Yeah, but you may never get it finished, right?
But it will still only take 1 minute. Nevertheless. No, but there is, I understand what you mean, but sometimes there is a real advantage if you're working with a tight schedule or a tight deadline. Even if you're not finished, at least you know that you finished a lot more than you would have had you had a little bit less stress.
Yeah, I mean, another thing that's been difficult for us is that we've bootstrapped the project, so a lot of our funding essentially come from doing small consulting projects and doing web development for other clients because we want to keep it very much in-house and not necessarily have money coming in from a third party that then takes percentage control of the company.
You can say it, equity. You can say it.
equity. We're in it for the long term, really. The idea isn't just to build up something that someone's going to come in, buy us out, and then we're on to something else. Like, we want to build this into a company that lasts. So that's important for us to maintain as much control of the company as possible. And so bootstrapping it this way was very appealing to us. It's difficult though, because it means that you have to spend, your focus gets pulled in all sorts of different directions when you're doing that.
No, definitely. So you have to have like certain percentage of your time divided for work that is not connected to what you want to do in the startup,
Right.
because you have to give some for the client.
Exactly. I mean, we try to take on projects that are going to help us build or create features or fix part of the platform that we want to work on. So we do try and take on projects that are complementary.
Yeah, you try to direct them towards your your platform.
Exactly. So that that's helpful in a way, because you get you're the developer on your own. We are the test developers of our platform through doing that, and that is, eat your own dog food and all. It's useful for us to see it through a developer's eyes, someone who would be using the platform.
No, definitely. I can say that I've actually worked with a client that have perfected their own systems, just working with their own, in this case, it was affiliates. They just worked with them, and the affiliates requested more and more and more. And of course, we don't do everything that they ask, but as long as it's complementary to your system, they implemented it. And after a couple of years, they had one of the most perfect systems that I've seen. It was really, because it's just the feedback loop was going on every week for a couple of years, and that's what you get.
Right. Yeah. And that in itself is pretty useful. It just means it's difficult, and then it can slow you down a little.
Yeah, no, definitely. They had to have a specific team for that, for the day-to-day business.
Yeah, we'll get on that.
If we're talking a little bit about numbers, so how many apps, or at least how many clients, have deployed apps on Pogoapp, if you don't mind sharing it?
I don't mind being vague. I mean, we have
Yeah, no, as vague as you want to be.
yeah, we have a few hundred users using the platform at the moment, and we've got over 100 running apps as of right now. So we're definitely still small and bootstrapping the company. And
100 is a good number,
it,
I have to tell you.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, it's not nothing. We've got definitely.
It's more than the Google Reader user base, I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, but I got shut down, so it's definitely, it's good for us. It's a nice number to have. We've got enough people using the platform that it's taking up 100% of our focus. Trying to make sure that we keep everyone happy.
Do you have some sort of a character for your average client? Is there some sort of typical developer or maybe founder that you are sure that he will be using the Pogoapp platform?
Not really. We don't have a typical customer. I think the type of people that use the platform fall into probably two categories. There's the developers, the type of people that use Heroku and Cloud Foundry, etc., who are building their own web application, and they need a way to manage and deploy that without having, their own systems administration team and their own servers and doing all that themselves. So having the platform as a service is beneficial to them in that way, because they can concentrate on writing their web application. So that's one sort of customer that we have. The second group of customers are people who have heard of open source software, or like they got on the Ghost bandwagon a couple of weeks ago, or they hear about these really interesting projects, but they don't necessarily know how to get them up and running themselves. Mm-hmm. You can go to Git and you can find the code and follow the instructions and get it running on your own machine, but getting a Node.js app running on a server is no small thing for some people, especially people who don't know how to do that or have never done that before.
Yeah, I'm sure a non-developer would wouldn't be very ready to use the command line tool, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. So what we
Start compiling Node or something like that.
Yeah, like just the idea of using a command line to some people is very intimidating. So what we've tried to do is put as much of the functionality as we can on the website. So you can, with apps like Ghost or Etherpad, you can go onto the website, you can log in, click a button, and you can get a copy of that app just up and running through a click of a button, which is essentially, it was our original goal, and we've reached that. We have web applications that you can fire up without knowing anything about the command line or Git or whatever, but you can, and you can do that. But then if you decide you want to learn how to code or you want to make some changes yourself, you still have the access to that. So you can, you can do a Git pull the code for Etherpad, make whatever changes you want, push it back to the platform, and it will, and it will do that for you.
Yeah, that sounds good. So basically it's ready out of the box, but the box is still interchangeable.
Yeah, so if you just want the basic running version, you can get that. If you want to tinker with it and make your own changes, you can do that. You can basically do whatever you want is essentially what we're going for.
I seem to be seeing an increasing popularity for software as a service sort of services. So I know Pogoapp is actually platform as a service, but I would consider it as giving a software layer, having this monthly subscription, and continuing developing the code. So that part is still software. And I was wondering if you have a couple of basically tips or some sort of things that you've noticed working with a platform as a service.
Sorry, I don't understand the question.
Something that you could share with other developers or other entrepreneurs that want to start either a software as a service or a platform as a service. I would say most people are starting software as a service these days, except using your platform, of course.
Exactly, of course. I mean, I think the most important thing is for us at least, it was to build something that we needed. So we found there was a gap. I mean, obviously there's services out there that do what we're doing, but we were looking for something that wasn't aimed at companies with a lot of investment, companies that have, bankrolled companies essentially. We were looking for something that was more suitable for our clients, our small to medium sized customers. Like what could we give them? What could we run their software as a service platforms on? So software as a service on. And we didn't really find that. The best that we could do was setting up servers and running it ourselves. And so we found a gap, this, sort of aiming at this market, these people who need open source software, who need to run their own web applications, but don't necessarily have a DevOps team,
Yeah, definitely.
So we found something that we needed and we built that. And I think that's really the most important thing, is if you just focus on something that is needed and your customer needs, or you've seen a gap in the market for, and focus on that.
I think the real crucial thing is that you are your own first client.
Yeah, I mean, we were our own first client, but also our clients were our own first client, because we had clients that needed this service, and it was out there, but it was prohibitively expensive for them. So we built our own mini version of it, so to speak.
Oh yeah, sure. It's definitely an advantage if you have dozens of clients that you can immediately transfer to this service because you're the one already working with them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it has its advantages.
No, but I'm saying as in, even if you have, for instance, if you develop software or if you develop some sort of service, the best thing that you could do is be one of your potential clients, technically speaking. Like you know how they think, what they will look for.
Exactly. I mean, one of my roles is to spend as much time as I can using the service myself. So if something needs to be done on our own, with our own web applications and our own service, or even on Pogoapp, and I will try as hard as I can to do all that through the the web interface or the command line client or whatever it is that we offer to our customers, and try and correct it that way. Because that way, if there's something that I can't do that I need to do, then we know that that's something that is missing for our customers too.
The best testing is self-testing.
Exactly. So do it yourself.
So if it all goes as planned, where do you see your startup going in the next couple of years?
We see ourselves going global, like setting up in different countries, but more specifically than global, we want to localize our service to the different regions that we're in. Because we can set up our servers wherever we want, we can go into areas where there's a need for it, set up servers there, and hit the ground running, so to speak, rather than using infrastructure as a service where you have to go with where the data centers are currently based. We can set them up wherever we want. So we can set them up in Berlin, we can set them up in London, we can set them up in Santiago, wherever it is that we see that there's a need. We're going to try and do that.
So to speak more specifically, do you mean renting servers and deploying your platform on them, or what exactly do you mean setting up locally?
Well, we buy our own servers and then we run them on in data centers. So buying servers, setting them up, and then deploying the platform on those servers.
And do you see that there is a definite advantage if somebody, for instance, let's say that someone has a server in the UK, would there be a definite advantage for a client in Berlin getting a server that is in Berlin?
Berlin's interesting in that it's interesting from the perspective of data privacy laws. So because we have control of of the entire stack, we can let customers deploy their application, but only on servers that are based in Europe, so that they're not based in, say, the US, where recently there's been privacy concerns, and some of those issues have conflicted with European laws, which means that in terms of data protection for your customers, if you want to be able to say our servers are based in Germany and your data is only contained in Germany, we can offer that. So in terms of from a data protection angle, I think that's it's a useful thing to be able to offer people, because at the moment that's a really difficult thing to do with cloud-based platforms.
That's a whole other can of worms to try to control the connection. Even the communication between servers in the US might go through other countries. Actually, not only in the US, but
Exactly.
there is very little control that you can have for at least for speaking between servers if the servers are in different farms.
Exactly. And also, if you just want to, if you're based in Germany and you're a shop based in Germany and all your customers are in Germany, and you really, there's no need for you to have data centers in the US, then you can set it up in Berlin and keep your speed nice and fast for your customers.
I'm guessing if you have if you have local customers, they would be happy to know that their servers are in the same city, so they can just knock on the door if something is happening.
Right, that's important for some people.
Hey, you there? Fix it.
Yeah, let's hope they won't need to do that. But yeah, that's important.
It's just a good feeling that you go to sleep and you know that your entire business is not more than 10 kilometers away.
Right. If there's a hurricane in the US, you don't have to worry that your server's going to go offline in Germany.
Yeah, that's true. So this is a question that I usually ask. I'm not sure if it's relevant in this case, but let's try it. If you could start all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, it's a difficult question. I'm not really sure what we would do differently, honestly, because our platform has evolved a number of times from when we started out to where we are now. We try and keep ahead of the curve in terms of what's happening with technology, and so we've actually rewritten the entire platform a number of times now, because it sounds like madness and felt a bit like madness whilst we were doing it, but
it sounds too usual, actually.
But something changed, and then there was a much better way of doing something that we were doing. If only we just ripped out the rug and put a new one back in. And so, I'm not sure how to answer that question exactly. there's that saying, don't regret the things you've done. I think that basically we're on the right track. So the only thing I'd do differently is try to scale faster, or
Invest in Bitcoin.
maybe I don't know.
No, but it's definitely about the code you're writing. I assess how good the software is for how many times you had to completely rewrite it. Because it's just, I've had very, very reliable, stable libraries that were first written in PHP, then in Python, then again in Python. So completely rewritten, of course. And
Yeah.
they are, as many times that I had to rewrite them, the more robust they got.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go through it once, you find the flaws, and then you try it again. You can only improve, right? The point of drafting.
I always keep the older versions just in case, maybe I'll release it or something.
Maybe I'll need it again.
Yeah. It's really sad throwing away so much code.
Oh, do you not think it's a little satisfying to know that you streamlined it, made it better?
No, definitely, but like throwing away a couple of thousands of lines of code is just, I don't know, it's a shame.
Okay.
Anyways, actually, I'm out of questions. So the last thing it would be, how can our listeners reach you? And of course, the website and everything.
Yeah, so the website is www.pogoapp.com. You can check out what open source apps we have available at the hub. So if you just click on Browse Apps, then you can see them. We're on Twitter at Pogoapp, or you can reach me on Twitter at Lisa Erkins. And yeah, that's how you can get in touch. Also, if anyone has any open source apps that they want to try and, get online, like they've released their own open source app or something, and they want a little bit of exposure, then we can try and boot that up for you and put it on the platform and have it available for other people to fork.
Definitely sounds like an interesting deal.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Startcast. We are currently gathering as many interviews as possible with the most inspiring and interesting startups around the world. If you have a startup or you know anyone that has his own startup, feel free to contact us at contact@startcast.eu. And you can contact me at Asaf, that's ASAF, at startcast.eu.